you will notice that he says, go to the Reubenites and Gadites and half the tribe of Manasseh and tell them they've got to come along with us and help us take the promised land. And those were, there were 12 tribes in Israel. Those were 2.5 of the tribes. And the interesting thing was that they had asked Joshua if they could settle in the desert. They didn't want to go over into the promised land. They wanted to settle just where they'd become quite comfortable in the desert. It's quite amazing that, even in the most difficult circumstances, you can become quite comfortable and be reluctant to move on. Here they were in the desert, and they didn't want to move on. They said, no, let's settle here. We don't want to change. We want to stay here. And they told that they've got to go and just help their families, the other families settle in, and then they could come back. And the people go through the camp and they say, get ready, for in a few days we're going to be moving forward. And the reason why I'm not reading this passage of scripture is I unfortunately brought up this very small Bible with me, and I can't see the words, so I'm just paraphrasing for you what's in the Bible there. And I'll realize that I shouldn't do that ever again, but I thought it would be convenient to travel with a small Bible. Children of Israel had to do. As they were moving forward into the promised land, first of all, the one thing that they had to do is they had to prepare themselves. They had to get their hearts ready. He says, get ready because we're moving forward. And sometimes we don't move forward because we're never ready and expectant and prepared for God to do something new. I tell you what, I want to be living on the edge, where I'm waiting for the next thing that God has for me. I don't want to be living in the past. I don't want to be waiting there, twiddling my thumbs. And we used to often, when old-time Pentecostal, I came to the Lord as an old-time Pentecostal, and we used to sit there and people would say, how are you? And you'd have this little gloomy face and you'd say, I'm hanging in until Jesus comes to take me. What a poor shame. What a testimony was Christianity. Everything was based on looking grim, and I would look quite spiritual because I'm wearing a tie. And all of you would have looked very unspiritual because you weren't, except if I was, in those days, if I was really spiritual, I would have had a grey shirt on and a black tie, because this is a little bit too bright for these gloomy people just waiting. Jesus says he's come to give life, and life in all abundance, and this life that we're living is exciting, and we're moving forward, and God has new things for us, and we've got to be ready and expectant, just as the children of Israel. Get yourselves ready, be ready with you when you're going to move. Now, my daughter Abigail, she has a real problem getting rid of rubbish. And we will work, she's 16 now, and it's a little bit easier, but we'll work through with her, and we'll get her to let go of a lot of the rubbish, and we'll throw it in the bin. But many times, a week later, I've gone into the room, and she had retrieved a number of those items out of the bin, because it was just so difficult to let go. And I've shared this on one or two occasions before, and it was only just before I came on this last trip that she caught me out and she said, Dad, you're worse than me. Because we had 4 mugs that had been made for us on one of my trips to Taiwan. Someone made us 4 mugs, and they wrote our name in Chinese and then in English on these mugs. And these mugs had little lids. They had ceramic lids that you could put on top to keep the drink hot. And as I was clearing up the other day, I broke one of the lids. And my wife said to me, she said, those lids are just extra now. It looks odd with only 3 with lids. Throw the lids away. And I just couldn't get it in my heart to throw them away. And so what I did is I found the back cupboard of the kitchen. And I moved everything away. I put the 3 lids in and I pushed everything back. I just couldn't give those 3 lids away. A little bit of sentimental value. And it was unfortunately, Abigail, who was scrounging around the cupboard, and she said, Mom, come here, you won't believe what Dad has done. He says I'm bad, but look what he has done. It's not always easy to do. But in our walk with God as well, if if we want to move forward, we've got to let go of the past. Paul says in Philippians chapter 3, he says, I want to take hold of the goal that God has for me. Actually, he says, I want to take hold of everything he has for me. But I haven't got to the point where I'm the great person who's taking they get manna from heaven. That for 40 years, God did this amazing miracle where their shoes did not wear out and their clothes didn't wear out. Now, just put it in your try and be a little bit carnal and think. But now think we're going into the promised land. Hey, things have got to be far better. If we got manna on this side of the Jordan, when we get into the promised land, surely there's going to be steak on outside the door every morning, and bacon and eggs and all the rest. It's all just going to be there. If the shoes didn't wear out on this side of the river, maybe every morning there'll be a new pair of shoes this side. If the clothes didn't wear out, well, maybe I'll have 3 sets of clothes this side. Well, that's the way I would think. Now, what happens? They move over to the other side. I wake up the first morning, I'm waiting for my bacon and eggs at the tent door. There's not even manna. There's not even manna. Their shoes start wearing out. Their clothes start wearing out. This is the promised land. And I can just imagine, there was a group of women, and they had spent a number of years compiling a recipe book of how to use manna. That was the only thing that they had available. And so they compiled this recipe book, the most innovative and incredible creation. Manna pasta, manna burgers, manna souffle, manna everything. They could just do it. They could even make manna taste like bacon. It was really good. And they had the whole recipe book written out. It was ready for publication. God's not looking at our outward expression, what we look like. He's looking at our hearts. He's looking for hearts that just love Him and obey Him. And we don't obey God because we're afraid of the consequences of not. I was always told, if you don't obey God, God's going to come and He's going to sort you out. God says, Jesus says, if you love me, you will obey me. Perfect love casts out all fear. I live for Jesus and I obey Him because I love Him. Because I love Him so much, I don't want to disappoint Him. I'm not afraid of the consequences. There are consequences, but my motivation for serving Jesus is because I love Him so much. And I want to bless Him in the things that I do. And so I want to encourage you this morning. I want to encourage you to move forward in God. Move forward in your relationship as a church, to be moving on the edge of what God is doing. And it's wonderful to be here this morning and see that that's actually what's happening. You're moving forward. You're on the edge of what God is doing, and embracing what He has for you. Be expectant. Be ready. Let go of the past so you can embrace the future. Know that things might be a little bit different, but God's only asking for obedience and love from you. May the Lord bless you.